Recording now. Hold on. Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. We're going live here with one of my favorite people to have on, and I'm not going to give too much of him, but I just want to tell you, Ben and I know each other. I'm going to say probably 4 or 5 years at least, if not longer. Ben and I started going to events together. Ben was somebody who was underwriting seller finance notes for owner-occupied borrowers. He was at the trade shows. He was somebody that him and I had the same mindset and had this passion for the business for a while. And we started talking over and over again. And Ben was just, looking for a change. And I'm going to let him tell a story a little bit. But just so I give you a little bit about Ben. Ben is he was in the financial industry a little bit. Ben runs Odell Barnes REO. But where I'm going to say, and I'm going to let Ben talk about his life a little bit, is Ben came to me, and I'll tell the story, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Ben came to me and said he has the opportunity to buy a lot of properties, but, raising money was a little bit of an issue for him. So Ben would come to me, and I'll tell you this, and Ben could attest to this. I was funding some of Ben's deals, right? And Ben and I were partners on the deals. We would net out, pay me back, and then we would net a 50-50 split, 60-40 split, whatever it might have been. And even though I love working with Ben, and my returns were phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. Anybody else would have never done probably what I did and told Ben, why don't you just start raising your own money? Stop paying me so much money. And you remember that story, Ben?
Yeah, I do.
Like it was yesterday. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But I told Ben, why don't you start raising your own money? And Ben just at the time just didn't think he could. And I'm not going to get too much into it now, but I will in this conversation because he's probably my top, I almost hate to say student because Ben is an action taker. He just took what I gave him, the tools I gave him, and put it to work. So, Ben, I want to thank you for taking – I know you're busy. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to share with the group of what you've done. And just tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing now. And then we'll dive deep into questions and kind of, really open this up for the group because I know you're somebody who has a great mindset. You don't have the scarcity belief that you don't share it. You're so willing to share everything you do with so many people. And there needs to be more people like you. Not only that you're an advocate for your investors, you've raised over $3 million, done about 400 transactions since we started this. So, man, you're top dog right now. I mean, I have people that have raised $2 million, $1 million. I have people down to $100,000, but you have gone over $3 million, and probably it's $3 million in new money in just velocity. You probably used it by 10+ million. So tell people a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing now, and then we'll dive deep into questions.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's a pleasure always to sit and chat with you. But, I started out in real estate probably at the worst time, right at the beginning of what was going to be the economic collapse. So at that point, I owned 5 or 6 rental properties and just bought them the wrong way. I was making a bunch of money working in the mortgage business with Lehman Brothers, and that came to an end. And I got what I thought was sort of forced into a career that I didn't want. So I went into financial services, working for New York Life, and spent, 7 years there, and then another couple of years working with Allstate. And I just hated it. So I was just desperate to get out of it. It just wasn't my passion. I think there's great things to be done in that line of work. And I was able to do some great things that, really made an impact on my life in terms of, helping families and doing good things. It just wasn't my passion. And real estate was always where it was for me. And the problem was I had a confidence issue when it came to real estate. So going from failing and having these rentals and having to basically start my entire life over, right when I first got married, and all these fun, the best was supposed to be the best time of your life had become the most challenging time of my life. And then I just got stuck and, finally it came up to a point where it happens. You just have enough and you reach a breaking point. And so I started to dive back into real estate, and just from just immersing myself in education, really. So learning from guys around the industry, and thank God for YouTube. Like, if it hadn't been for YouTube, like if I'd been trying to do this in the 80s or the early 90s, forget it, right? Like who am I going to learn from unless you know somebody? So anybody that's in this generation where they have that as a resource, you're so fortunate. Like the speed of which you can go from nothing to something is just tremendous now. Whereas, you look at somebody like yourself, you spent 20, 25 years like just developing and constantly working and learning, making mistakes and, trying to figure your way. And so I just really took full advantage of that and immersed myself in as much education as I could. And then I started getting my mindset right. Like, all right, I have to redo what my entire brain of what I think I'm capable of. And that I would spend hours doing that. Like I would just immerse myself in podcasts, from Andy Pasella, Ed Milet, Grant Cardone, all these guys that are just crushing it and saying, okay, what can I learn from them? How can I apply this? And it's not just listening to that information, but it's taking that information and then implementing it daily into your life. And so I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. And because of that, I started putting out into the universe what I wanted. And I got a call, believe it or not, from a Craigslist posting that literally changed my life and got me involved with my partner, Odell. And it's just skyrocketed over the last couple of years. And initially, it just started out with me helping investors do what I do now. So I took my mortgage knowledge and started applying it to the owner finance game. There was a big change in all the rules with Dodd-Frank and all that, which gave me an opportunity. A lot of investors look at that and say, oh, this sucks. This is no good. It's going to be a problem. You have to change your mindset about that. And if I hadn't done that work on my mindset, I never would have been able to take advantage of this opportunity and then say, okay, how can I do that? And then start doing it on my own. And that's really the short of the last 15 years of my life, transforming from being able to, just be a financial services guy who hated everything he was doing to now I come to work excited every day. I love what I do. It's a blast. Real estate is so much fun. It's ridiculous.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What makes real estate so much fun I know what it is about me, but what makes real estate so much fun for you right now? Like, why is it your passion?
It's a game. Like, that's just the way that I look at it. It's just a game. It's fun. Like, and it's constantly learning. It's constantly evolving. Every day, you're dealing with different people. So it keeps it interesting. Like I have ADD. So like if I'm focused on the same thing for an 8-hour day, can't get through the day. Like it just goes sideways for me. But if I've got a bunch of different things working and me trying to adapt to those things, it keeps it very interesting and exciting for me. So for me, that's just it. I just look at it as a game. Like it's just Monopoly to me. It's fun.
I was going to say, is that why we have Monopoly pieces behind you right now?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's why I have that, because it reminds me every day, this is just a game. So I take what I do very seriously in terms of, especially working with the people that I work with and my investors and all that. All that's very serious to me. But the daily routine of it, I just treat as the rules of a game. I just have to play by these rules and I will win the game. So
I know you're somebody who definitely invests in yourself. I mean, obviously you were somebody who, when I talked to you about this, about raising private money, and I said, instead of partnering with me on every deal, and I think that was a mindset shift for you. I said, instead of partnering with me on every deal, and I was coming up with money and you were able to buy your assets, no problem, and you made money on them. And then when I came to you and I said, Ben, why don't you just learn how to do this yourself? Why don't you learn how to raise money? Do you think in the industry, and you see it a lot now because you've been out there a lot now and you're at events and you speak at events and you work with a lot of people, do you think it's bigger, the bigger issue is people not getting the education or not having the mindset? Where do you feel like people fail or fail in their careers? Is it uneducated? Because like you guys have YouTube. Like I didn't have YouTube back then. I didn't have all these seminars. The seminars I had were like Carlton Sheets, Robert Allen, Russ Whitney. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Rich Dad Poor Dad books, but I didn't have 29 years ago. Every meetup, every RIA group, every seminar, every day you can go to 3 seminars. You can meet people. You can learn on Bigger Pockets. You can learn in these Facebook groups like I have here. You're putting out tremendous amount of value in your stuff. And and I get your emails, and it's great value, your blog post and your Instagram. And we're going to talk about how people can follow you. But what do you think the biggest issue you see? Because I know I have my thoughts on it, but I'd love to see somebody who's come through pretty rapidly in the last few years, and I see is like, man, if everybody could be a Ben Fredricks out there. And I see it because you educate, you invest plenty of money in yourself, right? You believe in yourself, you invest plenty of money in yourself. And you're at the point now where, like we said, you've raised over $3 million in new money and probably used it in velocity. I'm going to guess close to, or not over $10 million, because I know how it goes when I raise money. I keep using the same money over and over again.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest issue you see out there with people? Because there's plentiful of information, right? And what I taught you in raising private money, and we talked about this briefly before we jumped online, I'm not the rocket science of what I taught you. I just provided you the data that I use myself, but you put it into motion. What do you think what are you seeing out there?
I think it's a combination of both, but I mean, you can get all the education you want, but if your mind isn't ready to apply it and take action, I mean, that's really the separator. I mean, that's what we were talking a little bit about before we jumped on here today, is like, you can teach a whole bunch of people how to raise private money, and you're probably going to, and there's, if you have 30 people that you join your class, maybe only 3 of them actually ever take action. Well, why is that? It starts all up here. They don't, for whatever reason, they don't believe that they can do it. So I think education is great, but one thing that I've definitely learned is not to get overeducated, where I'm taking in too much information from too many different places. Like I've got 2 to 3 mentors. That's it. Like I can't get distracted. And this is like the first time in my life for a long stretch of time where I've not been distracted by, what I'd call shiny object syndrome, where I'm like, oh, you should go do this. And then, I spent a decade trying to do that to figure out what I was going to do. And once I got into it and started loving it, I was like, okay, blinders, they're on. This is it. So I think education is great, but if you're not committed to taking the action behind it, it's all pointless, So you can sit and watch as many YouTube videos as you want and be a professional learner, but if you're not going to apply it, what are we doing? So I had somebody actually DM me. They were asking me about you, and they said, I'm thinking about taking this course, and I've taken other stuff, and I just want to make sure I'm not getting the same information that I've already paid for. And it's like, look, if you learn just one thing from anything, like, it could pay for this 100 times, 1,000 times. So, and you mentioned something about me investing in myself. I mean, I probably invest, close to 40 or 50 grand a year just in mastermind groups, personal development, courses that I take to constantly try and improve that are actually applicable towards my goals. Right. So I think all education is worth it, but the question is, are you going to apply it?
Exactly. Exactly. And we see that, right? We see all these groups out there. I mean, geez, we're not going to get into politics, but, Trump had Trump University, and he was being sued because people were failing at Trump University. And my thing has always been, if one person could do it, it's doable. That's how I've always looked at everything in my life. Yeah. If there's one person out there that can do it, it's doable. I mean, you got your fortune builders with like 80,000 plus people, I think, now paying $40,000, $50,000 a year. And there's some people that say it's great. There's some people that bash it. I'll never bash it because I know some very successful people there, right? It's just they took what they got and they did something with it. So I'm big, and I think why you and I align, and why you're somebody not only consider, somebody I've done business with, somebody who is a student of the training, but somebody I actually consider a friend of mine. Like I can pick up the phone and we can, hey, I'm going through this. What do you think? And I think we have that relationship now. But there's so many people out there, right, that no matter what you give them, right, no matter what tools you give them, they're looking for a way for somebody to say, hey, it's not going to work, right? And I want to jump back to something you said earlier. You said something like you changed careers when you just got married, right? You changed fields when you got married. How was your wife with that when you changed fields? Because this is another thing I see coming up as an issue with a lot of people. But how was the interaction with you and your wife when you did this? Was she supportive, not supportive?
Yeah. So when I came, it's funny because my situation is somewhat unique to that. My wife was also working in the banking industry at the same time that I was. So she lost her job at the same time. And so I went into this field of financial services. My wife, took another sales career for a couple of years and decided that she was going to go back to school to become a chiropractor. So at the age of like 31, 32 years old, she's going back to try and become a doctor. And I'm having to steer the entire ship. So I told her, when you're done, I'm out of doing this. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to support you all the way through. I'm going to ride you like Seabiscuit all the way through, chiropractic school. And if you get done with that, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So my wife was incredibly supportive. In the first couple of years, when you're an entrepreneur, man, this shit ain't easy. Like you're battling. Like every single day is a battle. You're trying to develop systems, and you're trying to get business and raise money, and maybe hire somebody. And then there's you're trying to figure out how to manage people and all these things that come along with it. So the first 2 years, she's like looking at me like, hey, what's going on? Is this going to work out? And I was like, just keep the faith, just keep the faith. So yeah, I mean, it's incredibly important to have your significant other on board. But you have to sell them on the vision the same way you have to sell yourself on the vision, your team, anybody that's involved with your business. You have to go home and constantly be selling that vision.
And you got to believe in it, right? You're not selling something you don't believe in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like anything else. So once you feel like you're a used car salesman, not to put anyone down or anything, but once you feel like you're in that position where you're selling somebody, I feel like it's not the right fit for me. I don't ever want to feel like I'm selling somebody. I just want to provide a service. And ultimately, and I know you're the same way, I tell people I'm just a problem solver, right? That's all I am. I'm taking an issue and I'm solving, whether it's an investor that funds my deals, they have lazy money sitting around, lazy assets sitting around, and I'm just going to help them put it to use. Whether it's an investor, I'm going to help them build up their portfolio, which you also do. You help people build their portfolios. I'm going to help them find the properties, rehab them, get them rented, manage stuff like that, just like you're doing. So I'm just solving a problem. But once I feel like if I was ever in a position where I'm selling something that somebody doesn't need, it just wouldn't feel good about it. It would be miserable. I wouldn't enjoy what I'm doing because let's be honest. I mean, we've been involved in deals. I mean, not everything goes smooth, right? Not everything goes smooth. We'll never say that to anybody. Everything goes smooth. But the difference is, you're the type of person that really goes above and beyond for your investors and for the people you work with. And I think that has to do a lot with why you raise so much money, right? I think and we're going to talk about some of the things you've learned in raising money, because I think that's what we want to share with people so they believe they could do it too. Because when we first got together, you didn't believe, and I'll tell you did not believe you could do it. I mean, I remember our conversation like it was honestly like yesterday when we had this conversation. And you did not believe you would be able to raise the money to do what you were doing. You would think it's so small at the time.
Yeah.
And, I think the most important thing for you was your mindset shift.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that was like the game changer on all levels in every area of my life, whether it was, building a business, whether it was, making my relationships better, my fitness, all that stuff. It all starts up here. I mean, there's no substitute.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what you did different to start raising money after we started working together. What type of things did you do a little bit different? And even go through steps. I mean, because a lot of people on here, I'll tell you why I'm so passionate about this raising private money and teaching it the right way. And I'm glad you told whoever reached out to you that if they learn one golden nugget, it's worth it. Because I see so many people. One is I see people doing it illegally, that they're going to get themselves in trouble. That's one. Two is, even more important, they're putting their investors that fund their deals at risk. Yeah. That's more important. I mean, you take care of your investors before you take care of yourself, right? That's my right there. And then three is there's so much money sitting there not being used right now. And there's so many people doing things the wrong way. If you learn to do things the right way for people's money, money will never become an issue, right? So talk a little bit about what steps you've taken since we started working together to actually start raising all that money you raised, because it's not a magic pill that something just happened.
No, not at all. I mean, first, I think what helped me the most was just starting to get known. So, I spent a lot of time going to expos, and, I had my booth for my mortgage company set up there, and, meeting people, networking was really key. And then, after you and I had talked, and I started getting more intentional about getting known and having the conversation, just going out and saying, hey, listen, this is what, letting people know what we do. So it wasn't anything like super complicated. It was just me voicing what we do. And this is how we help people. And this is what we're trying to accomplish. And once it's a beautiful thing, once you are able to raise a little bit of money, because it begins to be almost like a waterfall, because people, what happens? They start telling people they know, or you start to build a track record that you can begin to build upon. And then we just started doing little things like, we created this little booklet that we pass out, and, just talks about our deals. That was an idea that I got from you. So just little things that we did, and it would generate a conversation. And then, but ultimately I had all those years that I spent in financial services, although I hated them, it wasn't what was happening to me, it happened for me. And because all that information that I learned in sales and how to, find out what people's goals were, really translated to this business, because then I could have a great conversation with them. I was knowledgeable about stocks. I was knowledgeable about annuities. I'm knowledgeable about life insurance, all these different investment vehicles. And I didn't have to feel like you just said, I didn't have to feel like I was selling them on doing what we do. It was going to sell itself once they saw the differences of how these different things work. Most people don't know. They're so focused on like their regular career. If you raise money from a doctor, they're focused on being a doctor. Like, they don't have a whole lot of time to come home and research all these different investment vehicles that are available.
Well, one of the biggest things I teach people is, a lot of them are raising money. Like, we were all at the same events, right? And I know you've heard me say this, because I probably said this a million times to every student I've ever had. We all go to these murky waters. They go to these real estate events, and I think that that's the place that they should be raising money in.
Yeah.
And when you raise money at those events, what kind of returns are those people looking? Those investors at these real estate events, these so-called, that drives me nuts, so-called mastermind. Like, people don't even know what a mastermind is. The events we went to, you and I have been to, with Arate and those type, and my other mastermind groups I go to, and you're in some other mastermind groups, where I'm paying over $30,000 a year to be in 2 of them each. And then I go to a couple of events. I'm 6 figures a year, and where I spend money in my personal development. And why am I doing it? It's mindset, a lot of it, right? And it's because I want to be challenged. I want to be at a higher level. But I'm not in those events, and I don't even think you go to those events to raise money. That's not where they're for. What are those real estate events or those entrepreneur events? What kind of returns are they looking for in those events generally?
Well, they're like me. They're a little bit more spoiled. They want higher levels of returns. So, if I talk to somebody, their expectation, if they're educated and they know how to go out and make money in the real estate business, like for me, I don't get that excited if it's not a 20% return on my investment, just because that's what I'm accustomed to.
Right.
If somebody came to me and said, hey, here's a 6% cap rate, I'm like, okay, I'm not too interested, because I can go out and I know what I can do with my own knowledge to create that kind of velocity of capital. So there are certainly ways that is workable, especially if you're in multifamily or turnkey rentals. That makes sense. But for me and what I do in my business, like if somebody presents me a deal, and you see them all over the internet right now, right? Like, so wholesalers will bring you a deal, and you look at it and you're like, there's no money in this deal. So I'm very spoiled in that aspect. And so are a lot of investors that go to those events. So, I think those are the wrong places to go. And I know it's what you teach in your training too, is to talk to the people that don't have those super high expectations, that are going to give you an ample opportunity to create something better.
Oh, exactly. 100%. 100% on that. Well, let's start this, right? Because I want people to see, like, from you, guy who is in this, got into this, was getting money possibly the way it wasn't best for you to really grow this business. Because I don't think on the long term, if I kept funding your deals, you'd see the benefit of the business the way you see it now, right? Because we were splitting deals, we were partnering on deals. It was great for me. It was okay for you. It's great for me. You're doing all the work. I'm seeing, part of that, most of the money, because you're paying the bills and doing all the work. But what'd you learn the most? Like, what got you the most results in raising private money? Like, what'd you learn the most at that point?
Well, I mean, I think the experience probably taught me the most out of anything. So it was, those first couple of rounds where you raise the money and you start seeing like, okay, this is very beneficial for my private money person, and it's still beneficial for me. Like, it was great for me because I got my foot in the door. But it does teach you to think, all right, how can I restructure? Who else can I talk to that maybe isn't expecting the same level that this private money person is because they're associated with the business. So really it just taught me to branch out, a little bit,
okay.
Start talking to other people that were maybe not associated with real estate. Like, they like the idea of real estate. It seems sexy to them. And they're like, okay, well, I have money. I know people that changed jobs. I know people that recently retired. I just really started identifying like my natural market more so than I had ever before. Most of the people I was going to were already tied to the business. So I stepped back from that a little bit and then just started, all right, let me list. And this is something I learned in the insurance business, was the first thing they had us sit down and do were write down 100 people in our natural market. So I just started doing the same thing. I said, okay, here's the top 10 people I should be calling and just having a conversation with, invite them to coffee, show them what I'm doing. If we're not in a space to have coffee, let's FaceTime. I want to tell you a little bit about what I'm doing right now and see if there's an opportunity for us to work together in the future. So that was really it. I just kept it simple and started attacking it, systematically and, with intention. Awesome. And I saw you made a little pamphlet from the training. What do you think was the most valuable part of going through the training? Because you took action, you were definitely an action taker. I remember talking about it. You didn't just skim through it and, hey, let me just go try this. You were pretty intentional about doing each part of the training. Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest eye opener in that private money training you took to help you in your business?
Yeah, I think the pamphlet was huge because at the time what we were doing is we just had like a basic spreadsheet that we were using. Mm-hmm. So it made us more professional. Like, it was something that, really almost like a prospectus. So, that we used in financial services, where we would go and, show, hey, this is what this company is doing. This is why we should invest in this. And it gave us something professional to present ourselves with, that we're a real company. This is what we've done. This is our vision. These are our core values. This is what's important to us. And people can, you said something earlier about, hey, I don't want to sell somebody. Well, you have to sell somebody on yourself, because what we do is it's going to sell it in its own way. Either you're going to be involved in it or you're not. But if you don't believe in me and you don't believe in my core competency to get the job done and give you a return on your investment, that I'm ethical, that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, then it's a moot point. So I have to be able to professionally present myself in a manner. And that was one piece that I think I'd forgotten, that, I got it when I read your book. I mean, so you can get Dan's book. It's awesome. I've read it probably 5 times now. And, just, he tells you exactly how to present, which is amazing. So, but this little thing was just transformative, because it made us that much more professional, where we could, be seen as an authority figure in the business.
I'll tell you what, can you open that? Can you just flip through? Can you open it? Let's see the inside real quick. You don't have to go crazy with it. I just bring it a little higher. Bring it up a little higher.
Yeah, so we've got our, just an outline. We talk about meeting objectives if we're going to have a meeting with them. We show our key personnel, why people choose us, how our process works, and then we show some sample deals that we did. We talk about how we find buyers for our properties, our track record.
This looks like the bio that we put on our course. Plus, it looks like the PowerPoint presentation that we do at meetings.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, and that's why I'm bringing this out here, and I want to show, and I'm going to bring certain things out here that you did, Because I think it's not the problem. Most entrepreneurs and most investors out here have the knowledge, right? Guys, you're online, guys, gals, you have the knowledge. You've done deals. I believe you do deals. I don't think anybody's in this group that's really unethical. We have people try to get in unethical. We pretty much cut them out pretty quick. And that's why we only do these webinars in our group. We don't do them publicly on our personal page because I kind of vet everybody who's in our group, right? And I think they have that knowledge. But the problem is they become entrepreneurs. They're doing like you and I, right? We have this, you have ADD. I probably have ADD, but I'm very good at multitasking. But we don't want to take the time to actually make ourselves look professional. So we got to understand we're dealing with people who are doctors, lawyers, business owners, financial advisors, art auctioneers I have. We have car enthusiasts. So these people might not think the way we think. We have to show them we're professional. And doing something like that, you know, and I'll say this because I'm probably going to do this with like 4 or 5 other people. And I'm not just going to keep going. I'm going to kind of pick out the top 5 people who have gone through this course and pick them out. And I'm even going to bring some newer people on that have raised just their first 100,000 to close the deal last week, right? Which is awesome. Your first 100,000 feels like you hit 100 million, right? At that point.
Yeah, that's a badass feeling for sure.
It is when it works. When you actually go through the course, you do your first meeting, right, with somebody, you do a presentation, and they're like, okay, sign me. How do I fund your deal? Right? You don't ever have to sell them on a deal. They're selling you on how to fund how to be in your program. Yeah. But your first meeting you did, you know, if you could think back to that, right? I don't know how long ago it was, your first investor meeting you did. What was that like? What was that like going into it? What was it like doing it? How was it?
Yeah, it's interesting to think back on it.
It's like a me and coach type thing, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting to think back on it because, you know, at that time, I just really didn't know a whole hell of a lot what I was doing. It was just really just having a conversation, like ultimately trying to figure out what they were wanting. And it actually, we raised $500,000 off of that first meeting. So
I remember.
Yeah. And that became, you know, another $500,000 down the road. So yeah, man, let's stop. I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's stop there. So you raised $500,000 and another $500,000. And how much time frame was that from your first investor meeting? Probably another 120 days after that.
So total from the time you started to the time you raised that first $1 million, how long did it take you?
Oh, that was probably 6 months. I mean, our first private money person, who was a family friend of my partner, he invested about $140,000 with us. So it was just taking that and working with it and establishing a track record. And then the meeting actually came from somebody that I was helping in the note world when I was, you know, doing the mortgage stuff. And, you know, they knew we were starting to acquire properties. They knew that I knew the business, that I knew how to create these notes and all that stuff. And we just were having a conversation, and they, you know, wanted to get together. And I thought, really, Dan, I didn't know it was going to be about private money, which is why it's funny to reflect on it. Like, I didn't go there with that intention. Like, I went there as they're a client of mine on the mortgage side, and they kind of brought it up to me. And I just knew at that time, I was like, okay, I can close this. Like, so it was just something that they had said, but I wouldn't have known to do that, like if I hadn't been able to identify like those little questions that they were asking. So like, what kind of return can you get on this? And, you know, just like little things, how quickly can we get our money back? And, you know, I was like, okay, this is if you're in any kind of sales, you can identify a buyer quickly just by questions that they ask. And then you have to know how to close them. So
they usually close themselves at that point, right? They're usually asking you, how do I get into your program, right?
That's right. Yeah. For the most part, they are closing themselves. But if you don't actually move them towards the close, it ain't going to happen. So you got to get them to like take action now. Like, yeah, I want to do this, but you're almost having to like guide them along the way and say, okay, now we do this, and you're walking them through the process.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's essentially how it happened. It was almost kind of by accident, like really. I mean, but
once you learn the skills, you have the skill sets. It's not really by accident, Ben. It's you don't realize it, but like your mindset shifts The conversations you have shift. When you do things the right way, when you talk about your deals, you don't start asking for money, the thing shifts. Everything we see going wrong on social media right now shifts. All the BS out there, all the people that talk about they're crushing it, all the people that are online saying, hey, who wants to make this much money on their money? They're raising money the wrong way. I could look back on your feed. You could look back on my feed for 5, 10 years, whatever it might be. You'll never see us do things the wrong way. And when you do things the wrong way, right away people look at you a little differently. So just one of the big reasons I do the training, and I put this training together, because guys, I make my money just like you, Ben. You make your money in the business now. You don't make your money for selling courses. You don't make your money in that stuff. In fact, every dollar I make in selling courses goes into a fund. I think we talked about to build a financial literacy course for youth around the world. Every book sale goes into that. It doesn't even go into my pocket at this point. But I'm so passionate. People are like, well, why teach this? Well, because I'm passionate about teaching this the right way. Okay, that's really what it's about. And if people can't invest in themselves, if you can't invest a certain amount of money in yourself, which is very little, right? I mean, now our cost is only $9.97 for the raising private money. We ran a sale last week. It's a Halloween sale. We said, you know what? We had like 100, I think it was out of 1,400 people, I think over 1,200 of them said their biggest issue was raising private money. That's why we asked those questions in group. I'm like, you know what? It kills me. I'm never lowering the price of my course again. I'm just going to keep raising it, right? I don't believe in coupon shopping, but I believe if you can't invest $997 in yourself to learn the right way to raise private money, when you're going to save 2 to 4 points and you're going to take your business from where you were at before, right? Where you were handing me 50% of the deal. And I loved it. I mean, I was making 200-300% of my money, correct?
Yeah.
And I told you, and I said, Ben, I love you. You're a good friend. I want to make this money, but man, do this the right way. And this was probably like 2 or 3 years ago. You started, I'm thinking maybe 2 years ago. You started
about 18 months.
Yeah, you started raising money, and boom, you hit me up, and it was like, dude, I just raised like this year over $2 million. And now, you know, I'm comfortable saying you're probably paying 6, 7, 8% interest only. And you probably have the money a lot longer. And I'm going to go out on a limb and probably say, I'm going to ask you, what is the minimum investment you take from somebody? Because I know when you first started, you probably would have taken 25 grand, 50 grand, something like that. And I know I was the same way. Now you're very picky on who you bring into your program, right?
Very, yeah. I mean, we've got plenty of money at this particular point in time. I mean, which is a great thing to say. But
I love that. People don't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, you know as well as I do, like one of the biggest challenges is when you've got a bunch of money to spend is actually spending it, you know, because you don't want to, this is something that I learned from you, is like you don't want to have that call with your investor and say, I couldn't invest your money this month. Well, they could have done something else with that money, you know, so they're entrusting you to get it working for them. So, yeah.
And that's one of my biggest stresses. I just had a conversation before I was on before you. I have an investor that I fund a lot of his business. It's a hedge fund out there. I fund a lot of their business. And I said, I just need to know where you stand because I have a lot of money coming into me from my private lenders, right? And I fund a lot of his deals. And I just want to know where you stand because I always earmark a certain amount of money for you. And if you need it, I need to know. If you don't need it, I need to know because the worst thing, my stress, like your stress now, is not raising money. My stress is putting my money into good quality deals. Right. Now, listen, I could fund millions of dollars a week in business, but you know, most of the stuff I see is not even fundable. Why is I know, like I teach you guys, I know when you go out and you look for money, yes, you have your regulars now. You just either text message or put a call and say, hey, I'm closing a deal. I need 400,000. I need 500,000. But you didn't get to that day one. You had a presentation, right? You went through the presentation we showed you. You have a booklet that you gave them. You sat down with them. You built that rapport. You did everything you needed to do. You give them all the proper paperwork, right? Yeah. And that's how you raised your money, right? So now tell me a little bit about what you look for in a partner to invest in your program. What would you look for? If I'm a partner, what are you looking for from me? What are you telling me? How are you doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I want to know like how involved they expect to be. I want to know what their comfort level is. So if I'm approaching you as a partner and, you know, I'm going to have the same exact conversation that you just were discussing, you know, how do you need this money? When are you going to need this money? What is this money for? So, you know, I want to know on a deep level what their commitment is. If they're like, well, I probably have an expense in another year. it might not be a good fit. So, but I'm going to have that conversation honestly up front, saying, hey, listen, it can take us, 6 months to turn an asset, and if we get caught at the wrong time, that might make it difficult for you to get access to your money. So I think just having those honest upfront conversations in the beginning will serve you well. So, and then honestly, you might also find somebody that you don't want to work with, which has happened to us. And I say, you know what, it's not a good fit. So, and if you know what your culture is and like your own set of personal values, you'll be able to identify those people pretty easily. So,
right. And I think I always talk about the best deals, the ones you don't take, right?
Totally. Yes. And that's a tough lesson that some people you have to go through to learn.
And I'm sure I remember a conversation, you have gone through it, and I've gone through it because I remember we were sitting there picking on nachos or tortilla chips and talking about it out in St. Louis. We were talking about not to work with. And, and when you get to this point, it's so nice when you get to this point. And that's why I teach and calling it it's your program, guys. It's definitely your program. You choose who you want to work with, who you don't want to work with. And once you have that, now you built yourself a business. I don't believe at this point, didn't you say you just recently funded another big deal?
Yeah, I mean, we raised some more money in the past 2 months, which has been great. So it just keeps going on and on. I mean, that's one thing you have to be doing is constantly always be raising money. It's like always be closing, always be raising money. I mean, because sometimes partners will shift in and out, so,
right.
You don't want to have to try and find when you've got a good deal, you've got access to good deals. The last thing you want to be doing is like scrambling for capital. So you should always be trying to raise new money,
right.
Especially if you can find deals all the time. So
let me ask you this: if somebody's starting out raising money, right, and they're going through the training, going through the same training you went through with me? Yeah. What is the one thing you would say they should really start with right away? I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but rather than me put it out there, I want to ask you, what is the one thing that you think they should start doing right away from the training? That's probably most important to start with today if they're going to raise money and they have the training already.
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, they should probably master how to present. Like if they just mastered your napkin talk, like, I mean, really, if they could figure out how to do that, just practice it over and over and over again until it's just second nature, like they could do it anywhere, So, and I think that is a game changer for a lot of people because they just a lot of people tend to get uncomfortable with the talking about money for whatever reason. It might've been how they're raised. In my household, it was impolite to talk about money. You didn't ask how much somebody made. You didn't ask oh, you bought that house. How much was it? It was like politics and sex. You just didn't talk about it. Right. So,
sure.
I think you have to get over that first and foremost. If that's an issue for you, I would tell you, get over it. And the way you can get over it is just by constantly practice talking about it. Go everywhere and don't be scared to talk about money, what things cost. I did a deal. I made money, and there's no such, I don't think there's there's levels of self-promotion that get weird, but if you go out and talk about yourself and things that you're getting done in a positive manner, and then you can show it, like not just talk about it, but be about it and be able to show it how you did it. That's the separator, because a lot of people, they talk about all the shit they're doing on social media. I did this, I did that. Well, okay, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But if you could show me actual deals that you've done or show me on paper how this makes sense in a quick, concise manner that I can understand, it'll change everything for you. Like seriously.
You're right. It's funny how you mentioned a napkin presentation. I don't do those napkin presentations much anymore. One is I feel like they're almost like a piece of art now, right? And what happened is I had all of a sudden, it was like there was a couple month span where I was doing them, and then people started framing them. They're putting them in their offices. And it was really cool. So some people on here might actually, if you have it, you post a picture on there. I want to show people actually have framed it. And because I used to meet people at coffee shops, at diners, right? And I would just take a napkin or the back of a diner menu, a placemat, and I would just start drawing it out. And I raised so much money like that. This was back in the day. But like you said, be concise. Teach people how to do this business. If you teach people how you're doing your business, they're going to want to be part of it, right? So what you're saying is, if I stand in front of a fake plane out there, that's not real. That's not. You know?
Yeah. What's Grant say? You can fake a Lambo, but you can't fake a jet.
Exactly. Well, actually, you could, because I see this out there all the time, and
Yeah.
it's about, guys. This is what and who you want to follow. You want to follow people like Ben. People are in the business doing it day in and day out. People who have not, someone like me who has not been born this way. I wasn't born rich. I wasn't born with all this money at me. I didn't have family handing me money. I learned how to learn how to do it, just like Ben had to learn how to do it. I mean, change his field, change his mindset, helped his wife go through school while he was busting his horns, and then just put something out there and got in business with somebody who gave him an opportunity. And he sees that opportunity, because most people will be like, well, I would love to do this, but I don't have money. Not even think, hey, how can I raise money, right? He came to someone like me. He probably went to a couple other guys with money. And what did we do? We were raising money. We were partnering with Ben. So I was raising money at 6 to 8%. And then Ben's giving me 50% of the deal, and I'm paying out my investors, and I'm making a ton of money. I'm just arbitraging money to the point I said, Ben, you could crush this business. You'll never have a problem raising money if you start presenting your deals the right way. The problem in the beginning, I remember, it was just like, oh, I need money. I got deals. I need money. What do you want to do? How do we do this? And then once you started learning how to present, and I think that was the most important thing for you at the training, is learning how to present your deals the right way. Right? Yeah. Never asking for money, and those people just say, how do I fund your deals? I think that was a big part of it for you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if I can shower you with a bit of praise there, I mean, that is a good thing about Dan, is that he has a high level of ethics, where he didn't have to like sit me down and say, dude, you're like overpaying me. He could have just been that guy who's like, hey, I'm going to continue this is amazing. I'm making great money here, and I'm having to do nothing. So, I mean, I'm so thankful for that, because, it literally, if you learn how to do things the right way, like, it could be the difference between you making thousands of dollars to someday making millions of dollars. So
exactly. And I truly believe that's where people go from good to great. And it's all in, I'm going to give 100% of this to mindset. Most people have a scarcity belief.
Yeah.
That scarcity mindset, like, hey, I'm not going to share with people because there's competition, right?
Yeah.
And my friend Joel says co-opetition, which I love his term. I got to give him credit for that. Joel Marquis says that. But it's, guys, if I didn't share this with Ben and I let him keep paying me like this, I don't believe he would have been in the business very long, because he would have burnt out. He wasn't going to make nearly the money he's making now. He wouldn't have been. He's now hired people. He's got a team around him. He's got a full-fledged business now. And now they're buying hundreds of properties, sometimes at a time they're taking down. And I don't believe he would have ever been able to do that, right? And then he would have had to base his business off me raising money. What if I went in a different direction, right? And I believe that me and Ben, one is, I consider one of my closest friends in the business. I really do. And I always talk about power of six. He's somebody I would consider that he would be like on my board of directors. Someone that he can give me ideas. He's just not a student, but he's, that was just a student of how to raise private money the way I do. That's it. But Ben has taught me so much in life, so much in business, so much in mindset, that I can never repay him for that. And that might not have happened if I was looking out for myself. And I'm sure that there's going to be a time that Ben and I are going to get together and say, Ben's going to say, hey, I got this huge deal. Or I'm going to say, hey, Ben, I got this huge deal. And maybe I don't have money at the time. Maybe I don't have time to go out and raise. Let's raise it together. Let's do this deal together. And he's somebody I could trust. And I'm somebody I'm sure you could trust. And that's what it's about, guys. That's what it's building this together. It sucks to build things on your own. It sucks to have that scarcity mindset where you just try to do everything on your own. And I mean, I learned that from one of my mentors, Mark Evans. He taught me that. And I used to think the same thing. I got to do everything on my own. And it's not that way. It's really not. And Ben, you're like a master of mindset now. I'll tell you that. I mean, you've proven that. You really have. And one of the things you work on a lot is your mindset. I mean, you brought me to the Arate Syndicate. We went to that together, and you got me listening to Andy Frisella. That was you got me. Now my son is listening to that.
Oh, nice.
He was traveling the other day, and he sends me a screenshot of while he's on the plane. Look who's listening to. So you've helped my family as much as I hope I've helped yours. So that's what it's really about. So, and I'm telling people the training. I can't get it's over $14,000 in value if I sold stuff separately. I'm literally handing it to people for almost nothing. I tell people, if you raise hard money, I'm going to charge you 2 to 4 points on every deal for 6 months. I'm going to charge you from 10 to 14%, 2 to 4 points, depending on your experience, depending on how much you put in a deal. I'm going to require you to do this, this, and this, and this. If you just do nothing else but to save those points out there, you just, most deals are $200,000 to $300,000 loans. If you just save yourself $4 to $6 grand, up to 12 grand, if you look at it like that and you don't think that you should be raising money, you're hugely mistaken. And let me tell you, and I got the board back here. I'm not going to start doing trainings right now on this because I have you on. But some of the napkin presentations we talk about, when you raise money, I know I raise it at like 6 to 8%, and I raise it for 3 to 5 years, right? Some people 12 months, but I tell people 3 to 5 years because most of my money comes from self-directed IRAs, solo 401ks, where people can't really touch the money till they're 59 and a half anyway. But when you raise money like that, and you're not under the gun to be out of a deal in 6 months, how powerful is that for what you could do in your deals, buying an asset, fixing it, seller financing it, doing collateral assignments, doing partials? How beneficial has that part been for you in your business on the actual, if you weren't able to raise money, you got to use hard money for what you're doing. How beneficial has that been for you?
It'd be impossible. I mean, because the way that we're buying property, if we hadn't figured out how to effectively raise private money, we just wouldn't be able to do what we do. So hard money, they want too much, and not only just in terms of like the cost of it, but like, the time. They can't move, almost with impunity to be able to go get a deal just as quickly as they want. So you know as well as I do, if a bank presents you a deal, you've got like a minute to make a decision on that before they're going to the next door. So, you can't do that with hard money. You have to have private money behind you and already in place. So when you identify a deal, you can do it very quickly. And now we're just starting to, we're getting seasoning on our notes where we're starting to do partials. And, we just went through last week and we're going to recapture, 20, 30 grand in a partial sale. And it's like, oh my God, this is like free money. So it cost us nothing. So it was all from our private money person that we paid back. And now this is just money to us. So it's amazing what it can do. And you're totally right. I mean, if you can't justify investing in yourself, you'll never make it anyways. I mean, it's just not going to work out. So
that's what I would say. If you don't invest in yourself, you're probably in the wrong business. And like I said, if even, a couple $1,000 or $10,000, $20,000, it's not something you're willing to invest in yourself to increase your business, well, then you're probably, why you're into this business anyway. Why, unless you're great at raising money already, or unless you're great at finding deals already. I just say it's a fictional life that people are living. They're lying to themselves. Or I see posts on there, hey, you don't need to spend any money on anybody. And I start laughing, and I'm like, well, you're telling this in a group of people who have done nothing but failed at what they've done. And you don't know who people are, and if they don't invest in themselves to do it the right way, I mean, geez, you invested in yourself and you raised of brand new money about $4 million.
Yeah.
And I tell my students, like, guys, if you're a fix and flipper, you literally don't even you probably only need $500,000 to $1 million, and you're done. Because how many deals are you going to do at the same time anyway? Right? You're only going to do 1, 2, 3 houses at a time. How much do you need? You don't need a ridiculous. I mean, I only have 42 investors on my list. That's it. 42. That's it. I don't have hundreds like other people have, but I have more money than I know what to do with right now in private money, right? More money than deals. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I don't go out and I don't raise a lot of money. I just use the people I really work with that I have a relationship with. One is a loyalty thing. Why should I go out and bring new money until I use theirs, right? It's a loyalty thing for me. So, and I'm sure you're in the same boat right now. You're pretty much in that same boat.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we love to work with our people that we're working with. I mean, it's just relationships, and that relationship just continues to build and build and build. The more
we're talking about 18 months for you.
Yeah.
I'm in 29 years, 18 months. So people think that they can't do it, and it's a mindset thing. And I just want everyone to see that someone who 18 months ago didn't feel comfortable raising any money himself. He was giving away the farm, giving away, and I talk about this all the time, giving away his whole business to guys like myself and probably some other investors. And now he's raising money, and he's created an amazing business. I mean, done over 400 deals. I think it was something like that. You're at right around 400 deals already. And these aren't 400 doors in a multifamily. These are 400 deals, right? 400 deals. And and I always talk about vision. You don't need to be Ben Fredricks. You don't need to do 400 deals. You don't need to be Dan Zitofsky. You don't need to have over 600 doors. You need to be yourself. You need to do start with one deal, right? Do one deal, right? Ben raised $140,000 to start. Then he raised $500,000 in the program. Then he raised another $500,000 from the same person in the program. So within 4 to 6 months, I think he said he was at over $1 million he raised. But, you know, 140,000 seemed like a lot for him. And by actually doing what we told him to do and putting out there what he does, he was actually able to raise money. And I'll tell you this, and I know it's probably the same with you. I mean, you said you got it from your partner's father. But most of my students, when they start out, they raise money without knowing it. They have no idea they're going to do it. But when we go through the training step by step, and when I have them take, I say, okay, send out the email now. And it just happened to a friend of mine, student of mine, Logan Hossinger. He sent out his email now. Boom, a guy hit him back. I didn't even know you were doing this. Let's get together and I have money for you. Now, will he finalize and get the money if he has a deal? Once he has a deal, he'll have money from him. But he had like 80-something names. I made him send out an email. He was so timid to send it out. He sent it out. While we were on the call, he got it. I have, like I said, 42 lenders. I had a deal I closed in North Carolina last week. I took one of my students that was so timid to send out an email. I said, let's send this out. We sent it out. 42 investors. 24 the first day said they're interested in the deal. The second day I had another 2. Okay, that was 26 out of 42 right there on the spot like that. But it's like you said, I think the important thing is putting this out there, presenting it the right way, and letting people know what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and the biggest piece too, I think, is, and I literally just heard this morning from Jocko Willink, is discipline. Everything you want is tied to discipline in one way or another. It could be the money you make. It could be, you know, the fitness that you have. It could be relationships. All of those things are going to require discipline. So most people, they won't spend the $997, which, by the way, you should raise the price on that, Dan. Like, seriously, that's stupid cheap. And if somebody people can afford $997. First of all, if you can't raise $997, you need to figure out a way to raise the $997.
You know what's funny? I told you I think we have close to 1,400 people in the group. I think over 90% of them, like 92%.
Yeah.
One of their answers was the hardest thing they have trouble is raising money. So I spoke to Tucker, my marketer. I said, we hate doing sales. We're not lowering it anymore. I said, listen, we've sold a lot of these courses, and now I've also done a lot of one-on-one. I'm finishing up my first round of one-on-one trainings for 3 months. That's going to go to 2 months from now on. 3 months is actually a long time. And people pay some good money for that. But I said, let's do something where everybody's complaining about this. We have all the new people in the group. Let's do something where and we went back and forth. I'm like, if they can't afford $987, they probably shouldn't be in the business. But I said, let's give them something. Let's do it one last time. We lowered the price last week to $497. We said up to 20 people max. Yeah. 20 people didn't take advantage. I think 13 might have taken advantage. And like I said, I don't care either way. I'm not here to sell for trainings. But I had like 3 or 4 people. So it ended on Friday at 11:59 Eastern time. On Saturday, we had 3 or 4 people hit us up, and they're like, well, when he lowers the price again, we'll buy it. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah.
In fact, I might raise it right now. There is no way, because you will never take action. Your mindset is wrong. You're probably not the right fit for the training anyway. And and then, you know how many times people have gone to training, come to me to raise money, and I've actually funded their deals because they've done it the right way. So mindset is everything. So you'd rather go out there and not learn the right way to raise money, not protect your investors, not be showcased on our program like you are, Ben. I mean, it's just, and not have me possibly fund your deal because you're worried, and you couldn't spend $497. You waited to take action. And I want to tell them, I'm like, next time I do a training or I'm speaking as a keynote speaker on action taking, you want to be in the front row because you need to be involved. That's the only way you're going to take care of your investors. That's the only way you're going to build your business. And that's what I love about someone like you is you took action. But not only did you take action and jump into training right without even asking questions, but you actually went through it and actually took action on each step. And the people that have gone through it, they don't need my one-on-one. They just get the online training and they take action on their own. And you might not have done everything, but you did bits and pieces of it. And like you said, there's always going to be 1 or 2 golden nuggets. And just that brochure alone that you have, I mean, you see Ed Pugh's put his up. I mean, Logan House just put his up. Jake Penny's put his up. these guys have put theirs up. Jeremy Bowers put theirs up, and they've raised a ton of money. And I'm going to have them on this show talking about what they've done too. And these are some successful people.
That's good. I mean, yeah, I know. I've known Ed Pugh a while, and like he's a player. So like if Ed Pugh is a guy that if he's learning something from Dan that he's implementing into his business, that means you should be doing it because he's a guy that is doing also a ton of deals.
Yeah, and he's doing a lot of similar stuff that you're doing. He's getting bank-owned properties. He's crushing it. And he flew in here. He paid me. He said, I'm going to pay you for your time. He flew in here. We sat down. We spent way more time than we planned. But, you know, why? Because he was taking action. And he got that deal funded. He funded a huge deal. And he just had that issue of okay, I can get these deals. I could raise money, but I couldn't raise this kind of money. I couldn't get to that next level. Yeah. So I'm glad. I think he's spoken to you too, and you probably helped him a lot as well with his mindset. Now,
I actually learned a ton from them. So him and his brother, I mean, they phenomenal. Basically their group got me started on the path.
Yeah, so, I didn't know that.
I'm so thankful.
I actually went out because I bought a property. I just bought a property in Charlotte last week.
Yeah.
And I went out there. I was checking out the market, doing my emerging market, doing my research, meeting with property managers, a bunch of them, meeting with contractors, meeting with project managers, meeting with realtors. And I told them, I said, I'm going to do it around your group. So I got to join his group and go to his event. And it was phenomenal. I mean, those two are just, Taylor and Ed are just crushing it out there, just like you are. And I'm just like, I'm blown away that I've even been a part of what you're doing, what they're doing, what other guys are doing. Now, I'm hoping everyone gets a lot out of what you're doing here. But the couple questions I get asked, I just recently got asked this on a podcast, and I think it's so important because it's, you know, the basics of a business are nothing crazy, right? What I teach in raising private money or becoming the bank and passive wealth and building a rental portfolio, I mean, that you probably could learn along the way. But the biggest thing you can't learn is mindset and core values. Other than money, give me your top 3 core values you either have in your personal or your business life that you could share, that you would share with generations coming through the ranks today.
Yeah. Well, I think core values are something I never really thought of until, you know, I got into RSA. But which is kind of weird because I grew up, I was a Boy Scout, you know, went all the way through. Yeah, exactly. So I went through Boy Scouts and, you know, they have that entire thing, you know, do a good turn daily and all that kind of stuff. So, but I didn't really think about it much as an adult. So, I mean, some of the basic core values that I've embraced, you know, just over the last several years are I accept responsibility for everything. So nothing is happening to me. It's a result of something I've done or I've not done. So if you start to look at, you know, any situation that you're in as I accept responsibility for this, it really changes, you know, because a lot of people love to play the blame game, right? So it's like, oh, it's Dan's fault. He should have done this. He should have done that. I can't stomach being in that situation anymore. So I accept responsibility for everything. Probably secondary, I'm very intentional about what I do. My days start with purpose every single day. So that's just a very specific core value that I live with is just start every day intentionally. So my days are almost identical every single day. So it starts out with a 3-mile walk. I'm listening to podcasts, something on mindset, an audio book. You know, I'm getting back, I'm writing down my goals for the day, my targets and all the things I want to accomplish. So that's probably the second piece. And then the third piece is, you know, make an impact. So how can I impact the world today? How can I make an impact with my daughter? How can I make an impact with my family? How can I make an impact with my team? How can I make an impact with our business? So if I start looking for ways to help others that is all outside of myself, then like I said before, I'm a big believer in law of attraction. It's going to come back. So
it certainly does.
That's probably my top 3.
Certainly does. Wow, man, that was pretty powerful, and I love them. I think we're very aligned with that too, and I think we not only do we say that, and I have them written down, and I keep theirs on my desk all the time. It's always on top of my desk. Every day I always put papers underneath it. That goes on top of my desk. So I sit down, I look at it, and makes me remember. However you do it, you can put it on your postcard, you can put it in your bathroom, you can put it in your car, whatever it is, you should have your core values or your mentor's core values, something in front of your face. But you really need to not copy them. You really need to write your own. It's so important to have that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that's what changes people's lives, and that's what changes their business and personal lives to go from good to great once they have those core values. And I know you're probably in the same boat as me. It's not always easy, right? You know, we talk about not blaming other people, take responsibility for yourself. It's so easy to fall back, and we have to constantly, you know, people think that they see us from the outside in and they say, wow, they're very successful. They have a great life. And you know, it's a job, it's work. It's not easy for us to do this day in and day out. Making money might be easy, but everything else that comes, you know, the stress, the time, the family, the, you know, the outside influences where people, you know, we can't control the actions they take, and we can't do this ourselves. So the contractors, the property managers, the realtors, the private investors, whatever it is, there's always something that comes up. And we're just problem solvers is what I think we are.
Yeah.
We're problem solvers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Making money is not easy. Like it really isn't. So I know there's people out there that will preach, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. It's not. I mean, anybody that makes money will tell you that, granted, we're not digging ditches. You know what I'm saying? We're not, you know, blue collar guys out there busting our humps, like, you know, doing manual labor.
Right.
It's not easy. I mean, it's just a different kind of hard. But if you embrace the hardness of it as it being what makes it great, then it'll become enjoyable. So, and that's why I say it's a game for me. I just embrace it. And if I accept responsibility that I'm losing the game and there's something I can fix in myself, then that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome. That is freaking awesome. Now, Ben, I know people are, you know, obviously we're doing this in the afternoon. A lot of people are probably working now. A lot of people can't ask questions right now because they're working. I mean, we got some great comments here. How do people follow you? I know you have a group. How do they reach out to you? I don't think you want to hand out your cell phone number, but because I used to do that on podcasts and I get blasted. But how do people reach out to you if they want to follow you?
Sure.
I know you have you do emails. You have a Facebook group. Just let people know that they follow you, because
you can connect with me on Facebook. I think I'm at 4,200 friends now on Facebook. Something like that. But yeah, I still got room to accept new people. Ben Fredricks is just my Facebook. And then if you want to connect with our business, see some of our properties and, you know, notes and things that we do, you can find us on Instagram, which is just Odell Barnes REO. And then also we have a Facebook group, which is Odell Barnes REO Investors. So you can look at that as well. Odell Barnes REO Investors
on Facebook.
Yep.
Okay, good. Is there any other parting words you want to share with anybody? Wise wisdom from Ben Fredricks?
I don't know if I've got any left, but I would just tell you, like, the biggest thing is if you're thinking about hooking up with Dan, do it. Like, just like Ed did. You know, I flew to Philly to meet with Dan, and you know, I got some good pizza out of the deal.
Always.
Fine, you know, but more than that, I got friendship. I got a great relationship from a business standpoint. Dan's helped me, not beyond private money, just in, you know, helping me identify little areas of my business that we could improve. And, you know, but if you're not going to take action behind it, don't do it. Like, that's all there is. And
exactly.
And if you know that to be true about yourself, you have to be introspective enough to look at yourself and say, what is it that I need to change about myself? And it's probably discipline. That's all it's going to come down to.
Awesome. This is great conversation. I know you're busy and you're swamped right now, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this and share with the group. Guys, and if you guys want to follow Ben, jump on his Facebook page, jump on his Instagram, sign up for his mailing list. He gives a ton, and when you get those emails, check him out. He has a ton of knowledge. He's constantly sharing his wisdom with people, and maybe you could see him on the circuit when he's out by you. And I appreciate you, Ben. Thanks so much.
Thank you, brother.
Take care.
My pleasure.